Hello, je suis Léna, passionnée de bien-être, mieux vivre et spiritualité. J'ai créé ce podcast pour faire connaître au plus grand nombre des méthodes alternatives pour aller mieux, que ce soit physiquement ou mentalement. Quels que soient vos problèmes, quelles que soient vos croyances, restons ouverts, restons curieux et testons. Hello Alisha!
Hi, Lena. So happy to be here with you.
Yeah, thank you so much for being here. I'm so happy to talk to you today about your path and to know more about your personal journey and how far you came. So, can you start by telling us a bit more about yourself, how and when the depression started? Because I'm sure you spent months or years before even knowing you were suffering from depression. It's often like a slow process. I mean, it can come and go and then increase or decrease. You don't necessarily realize that in the first place. So, yeah, can you speak a bit more about that?
Yeah, definitely. Okay, so yeah, I'm Alicia. I'm a mind body mentor. So I assist people in aligning with their natural state of unconditional love, joy, peace, vitality, freedom, that sort of thing. Because if you're not experiencing that, then that means you're somehow in resistance. I'm able to tell how someone's in resistance to their true nature, and then we can use mind body tools to clear that. And how I got into that was because I had my own experience with physical and mental illness, and I had depression. That was like the main thing for about 5 years. And so it started when I was like 22, so in like my last semester of university. And like you just said, like I had no idea that I had depression at first. Like I just noticed that I felt like really down all the time and I didn't have a lot of energy and like I couldn't focus on anything. I like the before I had depression, I was like always studying all the time and like you couldn't like pull me away from studying. Like the guys that I was dating were like, "Okay, I don't never get to see you." And it's like, "Yeah, if you want to see me, you have to study with me." Like I was always studying. And now all of a sudden it's like I couldn't focus even when I was studying. I was just staring out the window. When I was at work, I'd just be like staring at my screen. I had no energy or motivation. I didn't care about anything. And it just felt like really just like shitty all the time. But I didn't like understand what was happening. I didn't know I had depression. I thought it was because I was graduating and like I guess I felt like I didn't have purpose in my life anymore or like I had just went on birth control, so I thought it was my hormones and I didn't think anything of it and I just thought like it would go away. But now I realize like what the actual trigger was. It was the relationship I was in. Like the second I started dating this guy, I started having depression. And the reason for that was because I was suppressing myself and how I felt in that relationship because on some level I registered that it like wasn't safe to tell him how I was feeling because I was friends with him for about like 3 years before we started dating and he had extreme anxiety so he wouldn't be able to go on a second date with a girl without throwing up. So I knew that about him. So I somehow knew like, okay, if I make him feel anxious, he's gonna leave me. So
Mm.
I just like wanted to make the relationship like fun and passionate because I'm like, oh, if it's all about sex, like he's not gonna want to leave, you know. So I just suppressed everything, which then
Yeah, not you. You were just focused on him,
yeah,
not you.
exactly. Totally abandoning myself and
Mm.
just make sure I'm being nice girl and was suppressing everything I was feeling so that he wouldn't leave me, which then led to me having depression. And I didn't understand any of this at the time. So like I started to blame him and I was like, you're the reason I have depression. Not realizing that like the person that's going to help you heal the most is going to be the person you're the most attracted to, right? So who else would help me bring up these energies that I was carrying? I was carrying fear, like afraid to be abandoned, and I was carrying shame, like I felt not good enough. So he was the perfect person to bring that up in me because I was always abandoning myself in relationships before this, but it needed to get louder for me to see it. So this was the perfect person, this person who was passive, like distant, emotionally unavailable. Like he made me feel so unwanted. That was like
Mm.
the biggest thing that triggered the depression was feeling unwanted and feeling the shame. And
Mm.
yeah, that I felt that way a lot because like we were friends first and we always spent so much time together. He was like my school husband, like 24/7 together. And then when we started dating, he would stop studying with me. He like wouldn't commit to plans with me, and it just made me feel like so shitty and so unwanted, and like, why don't you want to spend time with me? And that's what I needed though, because I was carrying shame. So I didn't realize that at the time, that it was really a gift that he was bringing me. And like, this is not saying anything bad about him at all. Like, the only reason that he would treat me that way was because he was also carrying fear and shame, right? He was scared to get attached to me and get hurt. And he was also feeling not good enough. Like, that happens a lot, where people will subconsciously sabotage their relationships because they feel not good enough, and they'll convince themselves that it's, oh, this person's just too much or too high maintenance, but really it's that you don't feel good enough to give this person what they're asking for. So that triggered it. And like, oddly enough, I just had the same experience again, and it triggered the same energies again. I met another
Yeah.
guy. I was just seeing another guy who was very passive. He wasn't as emotionally unavailable as the last guy, but he was like a lot of the time making me feel really unwanted, because he would like forget to message me back so many times. He wouldn't ask me to hang out, like didn't want to know when I was free, and it made me feel so unwanted, and it hurt so much that it actually felt for a second there like when I used to have depression. Like, for a full day, it felt exactly like when I had depression, like unthinkably painful, like, this hurts so much, I can't take this.
Like recently, you mean like the guy
Yeah,
you just met? Yeah, okay. So
yeah,
that's really an opportunity to see how much you changed.
yeah. I think this is going to be important for people to hear, because it sh- it showed me. I always knew I couldn't have depression ever again, knowing what I know now. Because if you allow yourself to feel what you're feeling, it moves. But this was kind of like a test in a way. I don't like using the word test, but it was like, okay, Alicia, you're in the same energy you're in before. You're not receiving what you need. Are you going to abandon yourself again and just be like, oh, it's cool that you're not messaging me back and not giving me what I want? Or are you actually going to express yourself and say how you're feeling and ask for what you want and what you need? And this time I wasn't afraid to do that, because I had already moved through the layer of fear before when I had depression. The fear that if I say how I'm feeling, you're going to leave me. That wasn't here this time, because I had already cleared that. So then I told this guy how I was feeling. Um, and like, he wasn't able to give me what I wanted. Like, he's like, I don't think I can be that for you. Like, I'm so sorry. And I'm sure he doesn't have the awareness that he's carrying shame, and that's why he thinks he can't do this for me, because that's not actually natural for a conscious masculine man to not pursue what he wants, because masculine energy is doing, taking action, penetrating. So like, you would make time for the things that you want. So if a guy is not doing that, he either doesn't want to be with you, or he himself has unhealed parts of himself. Like, he's probably carrying fear and shame. So I don't think he has that awareness. And if he had actually said, like, I want to bring awareness to why I'm doing this so I can show up for you more fully, then I would have given him another chance. But he didn't show any interest in doing that. So we did end things. So it showed me how far I've come, that I was actually willing to honor myself this time. But it did bring up some like similar energies as when I had depression. And not only that, but there was like grief now, because this relationship just ended, and there was like emptiness, because like, I mean, I really cared about him, and like, I hadn't had close connection in my life for so long, and then it felt really great to like
Yeah.
be held, and I just love spending time with him, and then you don't have that anymore. So there's like emptiness, there was sadness, there was like a feeling of I don't matter. Like, that was probably the hardest part, is like, I'm sitting here crying almost every day over you, and I'm pretty sure you don't even care about me or miss me. Like, so there was that feeling of I don't matter. So I was going through all of those energies recently, but because I've been through this experience before, I knew what to do, and they moved through like very quickly. And there was only like less than a day where I actually felt like I had depression again. So I hope that's helpful for people that are listening, that you actually like do have the power to move through this, and that as much as it seems like it's never ending when you're in it, um, it's not. And maybe some of the things we share today will be helpful for you.
Yeah, I really love that testimony because, like, everyone has its own challenges, and it's an opportunity to see how much you evolved. And yeah, when you're into that kind of emotional state, like it's really heavy, but if you can understand that you're kind of the sun, and there are the clouds that are passing by, and yeah, you are still the sun, but it's gonna be okay, and that nothing is permanent. Just have this kind of face of yourself and your awareness, like everything is gonna be okay, and yeah, you just like learn to be patient and to have trust and to know that it's going to be okay.
Yeah, exactly. Like I just had to keep telling myself, you can stay here for as long as you want. Like the part of myself that was hurting, because it really seemed like it was endless and wasn't going to go anywhere. And that's when it was creating resistance and keeping it in place. So that's why I was like, okay, Alicia, it's okay that you're hurt. No wonder you would be hurt. You're right to feel hurt, and you can take as long as you need to move through this and process this. And that already made me feel so much lighter, just doing that.
And do you think you would have had the depression, like if you didn't, like you hadn't met the boy?
Well, so life is always on your side, and life is always going to try to bring you back to your natural state. So something had to happen. And there was a lot more subtle things that happened first that weren't loud enough to get my attention. So that's why this is exactly what I needed to show me that I was carrying all these energies and abandoning myself in every area of my life. But like it definitely could have happened sooner. Like there was a guy 3 years before that was similar, and if I had dated him, he was also really passive. So I probably would have just gone through the same experience just 3 years sooner. Which I'm glad I didn't, because then I probably wouldn't have graduated. Not like I needed to graduate either, but like there's no way I would have been able to focus and do that for 3 years. So yeah.
Yeah. And what is funny is that often when we don't feel good in our life, we are bypassing our emotional states by suppressing our emotions. And so I'm sure you did that maybe with the studying, right?
Yeah. Oh yeah. I did it in so many ways. Suppress what I was feeling. Like by first of all not expressing how I was feeling, not even acknowledging that I'm upset and that it's okay to be upset, right? And then not expressing how I was feeling with anyone ever. It was so hard for me because I had so much fear. Like in that relationship that I was telling you about with the guy that triggered the depression 5 years ago, longer, um, he could like tell that I was upset and like wanted to know, and because now it was making him anxious that I'm upset and he doesn't know that why I'm upset. So he wanted me to tell him how I was feeling, and I was so scared I couldn't do it, so that he had to actually like this is so funny. He had to like strip for me. He's like, for every item of clothing I take off, tell me what you're feeling, what's bothering you. That was the only way he could get me to actually say how I was feeling. And that was like one time only. Otherwise, I never would tell him how I was feeling. So that's how I suppressed myself. And then I would study a lot. When I was like really in the thick of the depression, I would just try to work a lot. Like I took a job that was like, you work 12 to 16 hours a day, because I was like, I just want to be busy and distracted and not feel what I'm feeling. Or I would sleep a lot, even if I wasn't tired, so I didn't have to feel what I was feeling. I would drink a lot, but honestly, I would actually just feel worse when I would drink or when I would go out with friends, because I would see like girls my age just like having a great time out at the bar, and I was like, why can't I be like them? Why can't I?
Yeah, I was like that too.
Yeah, I was like,
What is going on with me?
Exactly, that's how I felt. So drinking didn't actually help. I would always end up in the bathroom crying. But there's so many ways I would suppress myself. I would avoid things that I knew would trigger me, avoid topics, avoid places, avoid songs, music, movies. I did that for so long.
Yeah. It's funny how we can everyone has his way of doing that, because for me, like I was doing a lot of sports. I was also very into people pleasing. So like you, it was really complicated for me to just express myself. It was really complicated. So yeah, I understand. Like drinking also, like eating a bit or not eating, like a lot of stuff. So yeah, we are really creative to that.
Yeah.
Yeah. And like the worst part is that you can be surrounded by amazing people, having a nice family, a comfortable job, traveling, but if you don't feel well inside of you, nothing can help. And it's funny because it reminds me of me a few years ago. I was going to the States, actually. I was visiting the beautiful and magnificent canyons. So it seemed amazing, you know, like, but I was so stressed out and really filled with anxiety. I could not even enjoy my vacation. I felt so miserable. I just wanted to die and just, you know, stop this pain. It was really overwhelming. Nothing could help it. So at first I thought going on vacation could do good, you know, but wrong mentality, because if you don't work on yourself, your problems will follow you everywhere you go, you know?
Okay, so yeah, the same, I experienced the same thing. Like right after I graduated, I went on a trip to Europe with my friends, and I was in some of the most beautiful places I'd ever been, and I was still super unhappy. And then when I graduated, I also moved out and bought this place that I live in. And this is something that I was wanting for a really long time because I didn't like living at home, like with my mom and my sister. And like that's when I really knew like something is off here, because I had everything I technically wanted. I had moved out, all the freedom in the world, more money than I could ever need, great job, loving boyfriend, um, lots of friends, activities that I enjoyed, like dancing, young and healthy, like all these things that I thought I wanted. And I was still extremely unhappy. So that's when I realized like it couldn't come from outside of me. It is an internal thing. And before, I always felt like I needed a man in my life to be happy. And this was showing me like that wasn't enough for me. Like it had to come from within me.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I love that because it's a really good realization of, you know, like everything is a mirror, you know, to your trigger. Your triggers are actually the mirror, and it's fantastic when you can see that it's opportunities, actually, you know,
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. That's how I
even
see
though it's not easy. I know.
it. Yeah. Definitely hurts, but it's a gift.
Yeah, exactly. And the problem is that our society doesn't teach us how to feel our emotions and deal with those. So, what did you do and who did you see in the first place when you realized you had really negative thoughts, and why you were feeling so down?
So at first, I didn't really know what to do. So I just went to see my doctor because, like, what else do you do? Um, and because that's like a conventional model, like the only thing they're gonna do is give you medication, right? And then tell you to see a psychiatrist. And I was doing regular counseling. So I was taking like a lot of different antidepressants. I tried so many different ones. And I knew that I didn't want to take it. Like I remember the moment that I took my first antidepressant. I remember where I was sitting. I remember how I felt. And I remember I was just like crying because I didn't want to take it. And I was like, I can't believe this is my life, that I'm actually here taking an antidepressant right now. Not like there's anything wrong with it. It just felt heavy for me. And I didn't realize at the time that if something felt heavy, that meant it wasn't required. It wasn't what my body was asking for. But I took it anyways, tried a bunch of different antidepressants, um, was doing regular counseling, which is pretty much like CBT, cognitive behavior therapy, for anyone that doesn't know what that is, which is pretty much just like trying to shift your thoughts. And it's not like that isn't powerful, because it is, because your thoughts do affect your body. But it was kind of like I was bypassing my emotions. It's kind of like shifting your thoughts is like the masculine approach, but you also need the feminine approach, which is you allow yourself to feel what you're feeling,
Yeah.
you know. So that's not something that I was getting, you know, like for example, like what I was going through right now with this relationship that just ended. If I was just using CBT to try to help me move through this, that would have looked something like, okay, just change your thoughts, right? So you feel really unwanted, but you shouldn't feel that way, because clearly he did want to be with you because he said this and did this, and you could feel how he felt. Or you shouldn't feel unwanted because, like, look at all these amazing qualities you have. You're beautiful, you're cute, you're sexy, you're loving. So that's like what CBT would be. Or like even having higher picture awareness than that, which is like, well, this has nothing to do with me. Like he feels not good enough. Or even higher picture awareness than that, which is, well, he's a reflection of me. So then I feel like I'm not good enough, right?
Yeah.
So that would be like the masculine approach, which is great.
But
But then
suppression.
if yeah, but then I'm not allowing myself to feel what I'm feeling, which is there's a part of me that doesn't believe any of that and feels extremely unwanted and is carrying shame. And I
Exactly.
still need to allow myself to feel that for the energy to move. So that's kind of what I was trying at first, but then that wasn't assisting me. And then I ended up trying like a bunch of other things after that. but that's how it started.
Yeah. Did the antidepressants help you a bit?
No, actually, I didn't feel anything. I didn't get any side effects either. I didn't feel better, worse, nothing. It was like I wasn't taking anything. That's how it was for me. I know, like for another person, they might have actually felt temporarily better, but I think life had something way more in store for me. So I wasn't going to be given like the magic pill. I was truly being invited into unconditional joy that wasn't going to come from a pill. That wasn't what my body was asking for.
And so did you take those for a long time?
Yeah, yeah, a couple years, I want to say.
And like you didn't say to your doctor, come on, like I'm not sensing anything. Like maybe we should I don't know, take a higher dose or something.
Oh, I definitely did. We definitely tried, and they kept increasing it and adding more. So I was on like multiple at the same time. Um, and yeah, it just wasn't working. And I was like talking to my psychiatrist, and I wanted to try other things.
Mm,
And honestly, he made me feel terrible that I wanted to try other things because he's like, this is what works. You take your medication and you do your CBT. This is what works.
yeah.
And yeah, he made me feel really bad that I even wanted to try anything else.
Yeah, yeah. And
Yeah.
you know, when we are in that healing path at the beginning, it's often common to try everything you can, spend a lot of personal and financial investment to try to feel better and be helped. What are the other things you tried, like therapies or else? And most importantly, was it helpful or not? You talked about CBT actually for the therapy, but
Yeah,
maybe
yeah.
you did something else.
There was a lot more. So like everything that I just mentioned that I tried, that was kind of when like I didn't really care if I healed or not. It was just I don't want to feel this way anymore. And if this doesn't work, I can always end my life. That's honestly how I felt at that time. But then after like actually wanting to go through with ending my life, I realized that it wasn't something that I was actually going to do because I was too afraid of pain. Like
Mm.
there was a time that I literally was going to do it. And then I Googled right before and found out like the way that I was going to do it wasn't going to work. So there was a time where I was sitting there and Googling like painless ways to kill yourself. And I couldn't find anything in that moment with what I had around me to do it. So that's why I didn't do it in that moment. But then I realized like I was too afraid of pain and it not being like a permanent thing that I knew I couldn't actually go through with it. So now I realized, okay, that's not an option for me. So I actually need to try to heal because I can't live like this. And that's when I ended up trying everything I could find. Like I would Google how to heal from depression and I would every single link, even on the second and third page, and I never go to the second and third page of Google. I literally, you name it, I probably tried it. I was trying EMDR, EFT, hypnosis, acupuncture, supplements, like everything. And I was spending thousands of dollars on therapy every single day.
Exactly. Like
Yeah.
it's the same path for me. Like it's often the same path for a lot of person before, becoming aware of those things.
Yeah. And I think the reason I wasn't healing, there's a lot of different reasons. It was like, number one, I was trying all of these things to make my pain go away, which was just creating resistance and keeping it in place. If I had chosen some of those things from a state of like, I'm doing this to love and nurture myself, then I would have probably seen different results because like I use EFT now all the time and see amazing results. But back then I saw nothing.
Yeah.
So you could be trying the most powerful healing modality out there, but if you're using it as a way to make your pain go away, then you're just keeping it in place, right?
Amen to that.
Yeah. So that's one reason it wasn't working. And then secondly, it was because it wasn't even what my body was asking for. Like your body and your wisdom actually knows why you're sick and what it wants and is actually trying to tell you and communicate with you. But I wasn't tuning into my wisdom at all. I didn't even know I had it. I was just outsourcing and giving my power away and doing what doctors told me to do, my psychiatrist told me to do, or like whatever I could find, rather than tune in and be like, okay, heavy or light. What? Because if it feels light, then it's what my body is asking for. And if it feels heavy, then it's not. So I was doing things that felt heavy because I didn't know what else to do.
Yeah, and you
So
were also not feeling your emotions, I suppose.
yes, exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And I guess that's the key to change,
It,
at least
it,
for me, and I'm sure for you too, and I'm sure for a lot of person. Even though we're not educated towards feeling our sensation, I think that's life changing. Like, phew,
oh
that
yeah.
for me,
Oh
that was
yeah.
the missing part of the puzzle. To change my life.
Me too.
Oh, it's beautiful. We talked a bit about that, but another mistake that we make is to think that other circumstances will help us, but that's actually an inner work. So really, that's really important.
Yeah, so it's got to come from the inside out. So, like something can add to the joy and the peace that you're already in. But if it's coming from the outside in, like I need this thing to be happy, or I'm trying these healing modalities so that I don't have to feel what I'm feeling, that's coming from the outside in. So that's not actually serving you. But if you like welcome what you're feeling and come into a different consciousness, and like your wisdom is guiding you to try this healing modality or like date this person, it's because that those things are going to support the frequency that you're in, and it's coming from the inside out, it's guided.
Exactly, and for me, like to become aware of my body sensations and to the emotions that were like very dense and really deep down, in my body, in my organs and everything. And
Yeah,
for me, like getting attuned to what I was feeling, to like empty out my glass of stress and densities and traumas and everything. That's how I became aware of my intuition, and I was really like, and now I can really connect to my intuition and to see what's light and what's heavy, because sometimes when you are not connected to your body, you are not connected to your intuition either, and that's why you're making so bad choices, in your life.
exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And to your mind, what are the consequences of suppressing our emotions?
Oh, everything. Physical and mental illness, like so like emotions themselves are not toxic, but the suppression of emotions is, because it just stays in your body, and because it's not aligned with your natural state, it is going to try to come up to get your attention. So if you miss the subtle versions, it will get louder and it could turn into a physical illness. Like you can actually predict, it's actually pretty easy to predict what illness or what's going to happen in someone's life based on the energies they're suppressing, right? Like Lyme disease is like victim consciousness mixed with trying to like overcome and achieve. Like most autoimmune illnesses are you're overworking yourself, pushing yourself, totally abandoning your body by working harder, right? And then like cancer is like fear and control, and like breast cancer is like over nurturing, like doing things for other people and neglecting yourself. Like you can actually predict what it's going to be if you suppress these emotions. Like it's not that hard to tell. And you wouldn't receive like your heart's desires, like the things that are aligned with you, like your person, your soulmate, the thing that you're meant to do for a living. Like those are all the things that are available for you, but if you're in resistance, you won't be guided to them. So you're really missing out on like a truly fulfilling, amazing, effortless, joyful life by suppressing your emotions.
What you said is actually so true and important, because yeah, it's authentic, it's honest, it's real, it's very efficient. But lots of people are becoming really afraid when they start to feel the sensations in their body, the emotions, because it feels really difficult, and sometimes it gets really really intense.
Yeah, it does.
And how can you deal with
Yeah.
that? Like, what can you say to the people, when because sometimes they are scared to feel the sensation in the body.
Yeah, yeah, because that definitely can happen first because you've been suppressing everything you were feeling. So the second you actually tune in and try to welcome what you're feeling, it might intensify, you might feel it more fully. So that's why I need a point of willingness to actually be willing to meet it. So for me, it's like I'm aware of how heavy it feels to live in this area of my life, like this way, not having close connections, or like fill in the blank about what's going on in your life. Maybe you have an illness or a disease, you're bedridden, you can't do the things you want. So if you're aware of how heavy it feels in your life, you will have the willingness to meet what you're feeling because you'll want to be free. Like sometimes that is my point of willingness is I just want to be free. So I'm going to be willing to sit in this for a few more breaths because I do want to be free from this. There's a lot of different points of willingness that I have. Like sometimes it's bigger than me. Like I'm moving this not just for me, but I'm moving this for the planet. I'll think about certain people that are experiencing the same thing I'm experiencing. Like I'm carrying shame and it stops me from having close connections in my life. And I think about every emotionally unavailable guy that I've dated who also feels shame and they're not going to have love in their life as long as they're carrying shame and not bringing awareness to it. So sometimes that's my point of willingness is I'm going to be willing to meet this so I can move this for the whole planet so everyone can have love in their life and that the whole world can be living in their natural state. Um, so yeah, there's a lot of different points of willingness, but like I would say the biggest one is I want to be free. This is the thing that's going to have me actually be free. Like I already feel this way, I already feel heavy. And I already know what happens when I suppress it. It doesn't actually go anywhere and it doesn't feel like true peace. And if I need to max out on that a little bit longer and keep suppressing, you'll see what it creates. And then you will choose something higher as long as you're super aware of what it feels like.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, it's beautiful, to work for yourself, but also for the planet and the consciousness, for all people in the planet. I think it's
Yeah.
really beautiful, and for me, like what is easy now. So of course, I'm used to feel my sensations now,
Mhm.
but for me, when I'm becoming aware of the sensations, I focus on the sensations. I meditate on the sensations. I know it will get bigger and bigger, but for me, that's actually because it's like an ebb and flow. The sensation has to go very high and to express itself, and then it can decrease. But I have to just be like a mother to feel that and to reassure my body it's okay, like express yourself, I'm here for you, like nothing, like it's actually a great opportunity. And I know you have to feel like the entire sensation, and so I know it's always like that. It's actually a good sign when it's getting very more like intense as a sensation.
Exactly. It intensifies as it moves up and out. Yeah.
Yeah. So then you were so tired of trying new things that were not that great. So what did you discover that helped you tremendously? And can you tell us the tools you learned that actually were very efficient for you to feel better? So of course we talked about feeling the sensations, but yeah, can we get more into that?
Yes, definitely. Yeah. And there's one thing that's really important to note that I've actually seen be the biggest shift for people to welcome in what they actually need, which is like a moment of surrender, which kind of looked like I was giving up because I was trying to heal myself so hard, trying everything. And then I actually just thought like nothing works. So then I stopped everything. And in that moment that I stopped everything, I was no longer in as much resistance. So that is actually when I welcomed in the resource that I needed. And I found my mentor, Dr. Kim, and did her program and like healed right away. And it was because that work required something that some people are not ready for yet, which is I just soften and allow myself to feel what I'm feeling essentially. Some people do need to max out on the other way first to realize that doesn't work for them, right? So that was something that I definitely needed to do. But the thing that really helped me once I finally surrendered was I allowed myself to feel what I was feeling. Because before it was just try to fix it, change it, make it go away. This was the first time I ever was just like, okay, how are you feeling, body? It's okay that you're feeling what you're feeling. So my go-to tool was what my mentor calls the instant elevation tool, which maybe like let's go into it because
Mm.
I use that for everything.
Yeah, that's great. I
It was
love it
the
too.
thing. It was the thing that helped me heal from depression. Like nothing else helped except for this, and I still use it all the time. So it's 3 steps. It's A, B, C. So A is for awareness. And that pretty much means you're just going to bring awareness to what you're feeling. And the reason that this is so powerful is because your body already knows how to transmute or dissolve energy. Like there's 3 main functions of your energy body. You're a transmitter, so you're constantly giving off a frequency. You're a receptor, so you can feel the frequency of others, and you're a transmuter, which means you naturally know how to dissolve energy, and emotions are just energy. So if you can like get out of resistance, even like 2%, then your body already knows how to move this energy. So when you're bringing awareness to what you're feeling without trying to change it, make it wrong, anything like that, you're actually getting out of resistance and allowing your body to do what it's designed to do. And that's why awareness is so powerful. So there's a lot of different ways you can bring awareness to what you're feeling. You can rate it on a scale of 1 to 10, like soften your shoulders, tune into your body. Okay, where do you feel it? On a scale of 1 to 10, how does it feel? Like, does it have a texture, a size, a color? Like, there's lots of different ways you can bring awareness to it. When I started off, I would kind of do it that way. But now I've been doing it for so long that I'm just like, okay, where do I feel it in my body?
And boom, you know.
Yeah. So that's the first part is bring awareness to what you're feeling. And then B is breathing. So that's just like slower, deeper breaths into your belly. Because if you're breathing into your chest, that's like your fight or flight response. That's not allowing your body to work as it's designed. So we want to take slower and deeper breaths into your belly, like at least 3 to 5 breaths like that. You can imagine like a red balloon in your belly, inflating and deflating. Softening your shoulders will help bring the breath all the way down to your belly. And those are like the two most powerful parts of the tool is bringing awareness to what you're feeling and breathing more fully. That's the real potency. And you can just keep doing that until you feel lighter. And then part C, you can bring in when you're feeling a little bit lighter, which is the conscious choice. So that's kind of where you would bring in like the masculine approach that we were talking about before, like something higher, like a kind of like an affirmation or something like that. So I like to say to myself, I choose to relax my body and be at total peace now. And I can just like feel my body softening as I say that. So you don't have to do that part if you're confused on what to say, but that's just kind of like you're bringing in something lighter, you're choosing something higher than what you're currently experiencing.
Yeah, an intention. Yeah.
Yeah,
I
exactly.
don't do that like a lot. The C, sometimes I do that. Sometimes I just love you myself. I just love my body. I just say I love you, and that's it for me. That sometimes that's enough.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Lately I've been saying I love myself, I trust myself, I value myself, and I honor myself.
Hmm.
Lately I've been saying that. But if you can't find the words, that's honestly not the most powerful part because your natural state already is joy and peace. So when you're dissolving the other energies, you're already going to feel lighter after. So if you can't figure out what to say, like that's totally okay.
Mm. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's kind of my go-to tool.
I love it too. Like it changed my life too. So it's so
Yeah,
great.
seriously. So simple but so powerful because your body's
Exactly. But as we say in commercial and in advertising, because I'm working in it, it's like less is more.
yes. Yeah.
And I don't know about you, but like I very often feel the same sensations. Like it's always the same spot. Like for me, it's my body, it's my belly, my
Oh yeah.
viscerals. I don't know
Yeah.
about you.
Yeah, yeah, for me mostly it's in my stomach too. Like that's your solar plexus. So that's like your power center. So if you're giving your power away a lot. But yeah, so now it's almost like I don't even need to bring awareness. Like I already know where it's going to be. As soon as I tune in, I'm like, okay, go into my belly. Like I know that's where it is. Sometimes it might be somewhere else, but yeah, it's pretty
Yeah.
much the same thing.
It's
Yeah.
funny, like I wanted to ask you that because like what is I think amazing when you are doing this kind of work it is like because you're so used to that sometimes like often I just have to for me I lie down. I always lie down when I do that because it's easier for my sensations to be felt, and so I lie down and then say, okay buddy, like here we are, and the sensations that are coming up to the surface. I don't have to do anything. I don't have to be triggered before. I can do that when I'm triggered, but I don't have to now.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Yeah, because you're so aware.
Yeah, I love this.
Yeah.
Anyway, let's continue. So, what really helped me was to not fall into the victim mode pattern anymore. That really was a huge shift in my life, not acting like a victim. So, tell us how we can stop the victim mentality because it keeps us down it keeps us in a down spiral.
Yeah, yeah. So a couple things. So switching things from I have to I choose to. Like I see that a lot. People are like, well, I have to go to this job. What are you talking about? I have to take this medication. That's what the doctors are saying. That's the only thing showing up for me. But if you are going to choose that, because on some level you are choosing that, you're choosing to go to this job every day and you're choosing to take this medication or whatever you're doing. Um, if you switch it to, okay, I choose this, right? Because I don't know what else is available for me right now. So I'm just going to choose this right now. You immediately go from victim to empowered. Some people won't even allow themselves to do that. Like I've mentioned that to certain people, like in the mind body community and stuff, and they're like, no, you don't understand. Like I actually have to. There's no way I can look at this as a choice. And that's just going to keep you in victim consciousness, right? So if you could just try to open it up a little bit and be like, okay, I don't know what else is available, so I'm just going to choose this and choose my choice more fully, right? That already shifts things. But again, that's the masculine approach. So we also need the feminine approach, which is I allow myself to feel the part of me that feels like I'm a victim and things happen to me and life's not fair and all those sorts of things. You need to allow yourself to feel that as well. And then for those that aren't ready to switch it from I have to I choose to, I would just invite you to bring more awareness to how heavy it feels to believe that you have to do this and there's no other option and there's no other choice. Because if you start to feel how heavy it is to buy into that, you will want to one day choose something higher than that, even if you don't know how it's going to get created or anything like that. But you'll at least want to choose it the more aware you are of how heavy this one is to choose.
Yeah.
Yeah.
When we suffer from anxiety and depression, it's really hard to feel lightness and joy or else. What do you think will be the first thing to do when we are so down?
So I would say don't try to force yourself to feel anything that you're not already feeling. Like I definitely would try to do that all the time. I was like, okay, what does bring me joy? Let's just do more of that, right? So I was like, oh, okay, I like to dance. So let's go sign up for some dance classes or dance in my room, or I like to get dressed up. So why don't I just like get dressed up and like go out or, but like if it was again from the outside in, I'm doing this thing so that then I feel joy, but really I feel like shit. It didn't make me feel any better. So what I would say is that allow yourself to feel what you're feeling more fully. Use the ABC tool that we just talked about so that some of that density can dissolve, because your natural state actually is joy, and that's what's going to be underneath those densities. So you won't have to force yourself to feel joy or feel lighter or feel better. If you just meet what you're feeling more fully and then it does move, you will actually naturally start to feel more joy slowly, more and more. And then you might actually feel called and inspired to do certain things that add to that joy, like activities, hang out with someone, whatever.
Yeah.
But don't force it, is what I would say.
I really agree with this because sometimes I don't know, like if I have some stress and some densities that are coming up and I don't take the time to feel them, and if I'm going to like a party or a restaurant with the persons I love, I will not feel great, you know. So there will be something that will prevent me from having really and honestly, like authentically fun. So when I just like, even if I'm late and I take 10 minutes to just feel my sensations, and then I can see like there some densities are transmuted, and then I really feel better. Like I'm I don't know, I'm open to having much fun. So I really agree with you. Like that's the first thing I will say to you. Like feel the sensation. Like for me, it's the best part. And also like yeah, and then to see people, like to have some light with people, because I think that people can make you like switch your mood a bit, you know.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. And you spending those 10 minutes to honor yourself, everyone's going to receive more now that you did that. Like when you go and show up with them, you're going to be a completely different person. You're probably going to experience them differently. Like everyone receives more because you honored yourself, rather than if you showed up like in resentment. Not like you need to be on all the time or anything like that. You can show up exactly how you're feeling. But when you honor yourself, everybody does receive more
Yeah.
full. Yeah.
And you know, it may seem a bit silly, but sometimes when I invite people to have a dinner, you know, at my place, and so you spend a lot of time cooking, so sometimes it can be really like, I don't know, like tiring, you know, you're tired and you're a bit tense because I got to do this, I got to do this, I got to do this. And
Yeah.
before, like when they would arrive, actually, I will be so tired and like, I want to sleep, but I'm so tired. And
Yeah.
now, before they are coming, I always take like half an hour to just sit and feel my sensation. And then I'm like, boom, hello, come on.
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly. Oh, that's so great that you do that.
Yeah, that's really like different from before, and I love this.
Makes a huge difference. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. So, how can one deal with the negative thoughts and the unstoppable ruminations that can have like a really bad effect and increase our pain?
Yeah. So the thoughts that we have go along with the energy that we're carrying. So like if you're carrying hopelessness, for example, then you're going to have thoughts like this is always going to be here, this is never ending, you know, or if you're carrying victim consciousness, why do things always happen to me? Like, so those kind of thoughts are there because you're carrying that energy. So the actually the most powerful way to have this dissolve, and the simplest, easiest way, is to feel the energy, right?
Shortcut.
So yeah, I'm serious. Like
Really?
I,
Yeah.
I used to try to do it the other way, and it was not as powerful. And now this is the way that I do it, and I never even have to try to shift my thoughts. Like I just don't have those thoughts anymore because there is no energy of hopelessness anymore, kind
Yeah.
of thing. So meet the energy first, and then maybe you can bring in a thought shift after that's kind of like the part C of the ABC tool. So you can still bring that in after and try to shift your thought, shift your intention to something higher. But seriously, the easiest thing to do is just meet the energy, and the thoughts do dissolve when you do that.
Yeah, yeah. I really agree with this. Like when you have
Yeah.
so many ruminations, like slow down and just come back to your inner state, like your body and sensations, and yeah, that would be a shortcut, and you will like feel afterwards so peace, like so more peace, and you will not have the same ruminations because yeah, like it's like you I don't know, you suppressed an old program because you felt it actually, you know.
Yes, exactly. Yep. That's the quickest.
If some listeners are living with a lot of anxiety symptoms, which is really difficult, I know because I still have like really pins and needles and acidity all over my body when, for example, I got some deadlines and I got an old program actually, which is like how I'm gonna do that, like how is possible to do that in such a little amount of time, and you know, and that stressed a lot that stresses a lot my system, so I got a lot of anxiety.
Yeah.
So what advice would you give to them?
Okay, so for anxiety, there's a couple things. So there's obviously what we just talked about, which is like the ABC tool, bringing awareness to what you're feeling,
Yeah.
breathing more fully, like especially the breathing part, because if you're feeling anxious, you're breathing into your chest. So if you can bring your breath down to your belly. Also, putting skin on skin lowers cortisol. So if you just like wherever you have available skin, just slowly, I don't know if you can actually see this because it's lagging, but just anywhere that you have skin available, you're slowly going to put skin on skin because this helps lower cortisol. But if you're feeling overwhelmed, like in the example that you were just using, overwhelm is an indication that you're actually operating in an old system and an old way of doing things that's not aligned with you anymore. And there's a way simpler, easier way to do things than the way you're doing it. So, so when I feel overwhelmed, I tell myself, you don't actually have to do any of this. Like, even if it really seems like, what are you talking about? Like, I have to do laundry today because then I won't have any clean underwear, or I have to cook dinner, or like whatever things that I feel like I have to do. I let myself know, Alicia, it's okay if you don't do any of this. You don't actually have to do anything. If you run out of clean underwear, you can go commando. You can buy more underwear. You can order in food if you don't feel like cooking. Like there's so many other options that could be available for you where things are taken care of for you. And that's what it's trying to invite you into, and that's why you feel overwhelmed and anxious, because you're not meant to do things the way that you're doing things. There's an easier way. So if you could actually honor yourself, which means, okay, if this is feeling overwhelming for me right now, I'm not going to do this right now. And it's going to bring up a lot of fear, and then you're going to sit with the fear, but then you're going to start to see that things get taken care of for you, and you didn't actually have to do all these things that you thought you had to do. Yeah. Like something that helped, like had me feel less anxious was actually when I just started honoring myself more fully. Like things that made me anxious, I realized were things that were not needed and not required for me, or not aligned with me. Like I used to feel really anxious in my job. I would feel so anxious for our team meetings. I like seriously, I would get so stressed the whole week leading up to our team meetings. The whole day of the team meeting, I'd be so anxious. And I don't feel that way anymore. I don't work there anymore. And now when I have team meetings with Kim, because I'm on Kim's team, I don't feel that way at all. Like it just isn't there anymore because I'm actually honoring myself. I'm in alignment now. So if you actually honored yourself more fully, you'd probably have less things in your life that even made you feel anxious.
Yeah. And sometimes, you know, it's just an intention mindset. Like, for example, sometimes I can do that. Like, I'm waking up and I say, okay, today I really want to be in alignment and to respect myself. It's really my goal, you know. And I don't know, sometimes it works because I'm really like I'm reminded every minute that, okay, I want this today. I want to be in alignment. I want to respect myself and my health. And so, like, because I got this intention, I can make, like, wiser choices, you know. Sometimes I can't, but sometimes I can.
Yeah, setting your intention increases the chances of that thing happening for you, definitely. So
Yeah.
that can help too.
Yeah. So I would like to talk a bit about our true nature, and why do you think our true nature is love, peace, and compassion? Can you explain it a bit? Because for some people it's like a bit weird, like what this is.
Yes, yes. So it's interesting because everyone would actually know this, but maybe not have the same wording that I say. But like if you dissolve the things that aren't aligned with you, so you welcome what you're feeling, all the densities, and then the densities move, there's something that you feel underneath that once those move. There's like a lightness, there's a peace, there is a joy. There and like when you dissolve fear, you're just not in fear anymore. So you just like know you're taken care of. So people might not use the same words that I'm using, like abundance is your birthright and your natural state, unconditional joy and peace and love is your natural state. But that's actually what you would feel if you dissolved everything else. Everyone would have that awareness, but maybe just different words for it. And as Kim always says, and this is like a saying from A Course in Miracles, what's real cannot be threatened, and what's unreal does not exist. So if you dissolve all these energies that aren't even who you really are, like the fear, shame, hopelessness, victim consciousness, and those move, they're not real, so they can dissolve. Then what's remaining is what is real, the joy and the peace and the love that can't be threatened. It's
Mm.
unconditional now. So that's how I would describe it.
And do you feel like love is actually like the law of the universe, like the number one energy of the universe?
I would say that love is like what we already are. We're pure light, pure love, pure like vibration, frequency, consciousness, whatever word resonates with you. Like that's what I would say love is. It's kind of hard to understand because love is above reason on the human scale of consciousness.
Yeah.
So you actually really can't understand it to let it in. It's just you kind of know it's who you are when you dissolve everything else that's not aligned with who you are.
So do you think that in a way, like all the negative emotions, like fear, guilt, anger, etc., etc., like, would you think that that's those are emotions coming from the ego and the wounded ego?
Ego, small
Yeah.
self, they could have been passed down to you from ancestors, but they're not who you really are. Like you came on this planet to actually dissolve those energies, to bring the whole planet back into our natural state. So they're not aligned with who you are, which is why they can dissolve.
Yeah. So what we
Yeah.
should understand from that is that we are love, but sometimes we are polluted because we are human and we have the ego, so the small self, and so like we are experiencing life, and sometimes it's a bit difficult. So we have like negative emotions that are polluting the very just loving energy we are. That's why we have to feel our own emotion, and then we just can come back to what we are, which is love, right?
Yes. Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah, okay. I love this. That's true. Like honestly, before all that kind of work, I was not into love energy, like light and bullshit. For me, that was a bit like that. But now
Yeah.
I understand. Like it just words actually. Like you just have to feel, and then you know, even if it's not considered as love energy or I don't know. But like for me, I'm the observer of my emotion, and maybe the observer self is like love. Like it's just words.
Yes. Yes, exactly. When you bring awareness to what you're feeling, because you already are love, and love is what dissolves this, like awareness is like all you need. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Go awareness. What has changed in your life since you've been applying those tools?
Oh, so much. Well, I mean, I obviously don't have depression anymore. I don't have anxiety anymore. I used to have acid reflux that I had to take medication for every single day. I've been off that medication for like 2 years. I'm way healthier. Like I eat healthier. I used to always eat fast food. Every single meal was fast food. And I never thought I would be someone that actually like craved healthier foods. But that's just what happens when you come more into the frequency of love. You naturally want to do the things that are loving and nurturing for your body. So I eat healthier. I'm way more connected to my wisdom. So like it's very easy to make choices now. My relationships are definitely changing. Like I used to totally abandon myself in my relationships, and I clearly just showed myself that I'm not willing to do that anymore because of the example that I just met a guy that was exactly like the last guy, but this time I actually honored myself. And like if he had shown up differently, then that wouldn't have been me abandoning myself. If he was like, I'm totally willing to bring awareness to this and show up for you more fully and heal this part of myself, then that wouldn't have been me abandoning myself. But because he showed no interest in doing that, if I had continued with him, that would have been abandoning myself. And in the past, that's what I did. I just stayed in relationships like that. It was
Yeah.
pretty much like one of two things. I would either be, I'd be with a guy that I'm super attracted to and I like so much, and I'd be afraid to lose him, so I'd suppress everything I was feeling. Or I'd be with a guy that I don't even really like because I'm afraid to be alone. That's what it was like before. But now that I've found this like unconditional joy, I no longer feel like I need a man to be happy. So I'm no longer afraid now to express how I'm feeling and ask for what I want. So that's totally different. And because I've released so much shame, all of my connections with people are different now. Like I experience people differently. I'm no longer judging them. So when you're not judging them, you see them differently. You see like these amazing qualities in this person and you enjoy yourself with them. Like it's just shocking me the way I'm experiencing men now. Like before there was so much judgment. Like I didn't date anyone for like the past few years because I had so much judgment. Like guys would show interest, but I would be like, oh, I'm not giving him the time of day, you know? So I'm experiencing people differently now. My relationships are changing. My family relationships are more peaceful. There was so much drama in my family life before. Like the cops would always come to our house and stuff. Like it was crazy. And now my family life is very peaceful. So, oh, and then now I do work that I love too. I used to work as an engineer in a job that I hated. And now I do exactly what I'm meant to do, and it's effortless, and I receive abundantly doing what I love. So that's one of like the best things that's come out of this.
Yeah, wow, life changing.
Yeah,
There's a
every
lot.
area of my life. Yeah.
I love this. That's beautiful. Like, that's impressive, and I'm really happy for you. It's so cool. Like, you're so in alignment. Even though we're human, so at the end of the day, we still have to do the work. It's a life work, but I think it's beautiful how much you evolved.
Thank you. Thank you. It made it worth it
Yeah,
to
yeah.
do all of that.
And it's
Yeah.
funny because I was listening to you and I was like, did I evolve like that? Did I evolve like that? Like, it's sometimes it's hard to see how much you evolved because like the densities are out of your consciousness. So you don't even realize how far you come. Like, and regarding the judgment, it's funny because I used to, and I didn't think so actually, but I used to judge a lot, and now I'm really trying to have lots of compassion to people. Like, everyone is human, everyone is trying their best, based on their level of consciousness, and I think that's so great to develop our own compassion, because when you develop your own compassion you can have compassion for the world.
Yes. Yeah, exactly. I feel the same.
Yeah, I think it's like people should work on that too, because like it is really lacking some compassion. Like, everyone is judging and comparing and everything, and like
Yeah.
comparison is really difficult for a lot of people, and actually women also, regarding the physical aspects. And for me, like, this work too made me understand that the beauty, the physical aspect, is really not that important. And when you're glowing from the inside, actually, you're glowing from the outside, even though you think you're not beautiful, or even though, like, it's not important, because it's your energy that is attracting
Oh,
people in a
yeah.
way.
Yeah, you become so attractive to people when you're like in your essence. People can just feel you and they tell you that you're glowing.
Yeah.
But
And
yeah,
sorry, did you speak? Because I didn't see you, and I don't know if you were speaking.
yeah, I was just going to say a piece about the compassion because I found it so hard to have compassion for people because I was carrying so much shame and judgment, and all I wanted was to have compassion for people. Like I understand that they're in fear and that's why they're making these choices, but like I couldn't get myself to feel compassion until I just allowed myself to feel all my shame. And then once some of the shame dissolved, compassion was just natural. Like that is your natural state to have love and compassion for another person. And because we only judge other people as a way to make ourselves feel better about ourselves or not feel what we're feeling. So if you just go straight to, okay, I'm going to allow myself to feel the wrongness in my body, then people would obviously have more compassion for others.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
I really believe in this, and I was thinking about like the how can I say that, the fact that it reminded me, what we were talking when I was a younger girl. I was thinking to myself like, fuck, I think like no one wants to speak to me. Like, I was feeling really like rejected by everyone, like as if I was not interested in it. And I was like, but I'm interested like a normal person, but I'm interested, and I felt so rejected. And it's actually because, and I understood that like, I don't know, 1 year ago, because I was carrying so much density and, like you said, so much shame, so much self-rejection. So actually that was again a reflection of my inner work. So your world will change if you like go and work on yourself, you know.
Yeah, everything's responding to your state of consciousness. So yeah,
Yeah.
that's the point to go to have your whole reality shift.
Yeah, it's too bad that people don't doesn't know that.
Oh, I know.
And actually, how do you see like health challenges now?
Yeah, so I see them as gifts. I see them as um like it pretty much only turns into a health challenge usually when you miss the signs that came before that were more subtle. Because life's not trying to torture you. Life's just trying to invite you back to your natural state, right? So if you miss the more subtle things, like you're abandoning yourself and pushing yourself and making yourself do things you don't want to do because you think it's normal, then something does need to get your attention to have you shift this. And for a lot of people, that is an illness, right?
Yeah.
Like my dad, for example, may or may not have cancer right now. We're trying to see, but now he's actually able to bring awareness to the fact that his like OCD, obsessive controlling behavior wasn't actually serving him. Because before he really, really thought it was serving him because he's like, that's the reason I'm so successful. That's the reason I have this much money and like all this kind of stuff. He truly thought it was serving him. So he had no interest in releasing that and actually honoring his body when his body was like tired and that sort of thing. So for him, it did take getting an illness for him to finally see, okay, this isn't serving me. So that's how I see illness. It's not a wrongness. It's like your body trying to get your attention and get you to actually listen and be like there's something I'm needing and wanting. Like, can you please listen to me? That's how I see it.
Yeah. Did you coach your dad?
He is more open now, so I've shared some things with him, but he's kind of still in the giving power away to the doctors and buying
Yeah.
into what they think is true. Um, so I hope he opens up to something higher. We'll see. I can't make him.
Yeah, and exactly. We can just like inspire them, but we cannot force them to change.
Yes, we can be the invitation. Yeah,
Yeah.
and it's up to them to choose it. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. I was wondering, like, if you had something to say about like a CFS, you know, like a chronic fatigue syndrome, because I'm sure there is a lot of densities in the fatigue, you know.
Oh, yeah, yeah. So chronic fatigue syndrome, people usually have that because they have been putting their energy into things that weren't serving them. And again, you weren't listening to your body. So now your body is forcing you to not have any energy, so you can no longer put energy into things that aren't serving you. Because you weren't getting the picture, you weren't getting the sign. So now we're going to force you to not have any energy, so that you can slow down. And a lot of the times you kind of need to slow down in order to integrate a whole new operating system and way of doing things. So chronic fatigue syndrome and brain fog usually go together because brain fog, anything related to your brain, is your operating system. So if you are being invited to do life in a whole new way of living that you weren't doing before, you would actually need to like slow down before integrating this new way. It's like a computer. You need to reboot the computer to get the new operating system. So that's why chronic fatigue and brain fog usually go together. So it's just an invitation for you to slow down more fully and really feel what you're feeling more fully and do life in a completely different way than you were doing it before. That's why you would have chronic fatigue.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And what about depression then? What do you think it is for you now that you like, I don't know, like because you used to be depressed. So what is for you?
Yeah, so I would say all depression is stuck energy, meaning you don't want to feel what you're feeling. Because if you just allowed yourself to feel what you're feeling, the energy moves. So then you no longer feel depressed. Because depression is like you feel that way for a long period of time. You feel down for a long period of time. But you can't physically stay that way for a long period of time if you're allowing yourself to feel what you're feeling, if you're not in resistance, because your body naturally transmutes energy. So
Yeah.
to me, depression is just stuck energy and you don't want to feel what you're feeling. So if you can be even 2% more willing to feel what you're feeling, the energy will move, you'll start to feel lighter and lighter, and it will actually be impossible to have depression.
Yeah. And you know, regarding the fatigue, like I don't have a CFS, but sometimes I can notice that I'm feeling tired. You know, all of a sudden I'm feel really tired, and now what I do is actually going to my sofa and just like feel my sensation, and it's like the fatigue is like shrinking to just a little bit of density in my stomach, and then I feel that, and there are a lot of noise and proof. You know, like it's like it's getting more flexible, and I'm transmuting that emotion, and then I'm like on fire. Like the energy is still it's there. You know, so it's
Yeah.
really interesting. Like I really yeah agree with what you're saying.
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
So we are going to end this episode with rapid fire questions, and those are more general questions. If you had to keep one book, which one would it be?
Oh, 100% it would be The Awakened Woman's Guide to Everlasting Love. It's by London Angel Winters and Justin Patrick Pierce. It doesn't matter if you're a man or a woman, it doesn't matter if you're in a romantic relationship or not. Everybody comes into some sort of relationship with someone in their life at some point, whether it's friends or family. And this is just such a huge important piece when it comes to relationships is polarity, masculine and feminine energies that we both everybody has those within them. So if you're not looking at polarity when it comes to relationships, you're missing like a huge part. So honestly, that's my favorite book ever, and if I could only recommend one book, that would be the book.
Yeah, it's interesting because we don't speak a lot about masculinity and femininity. So yeah, that's interesting. Yeah, it's a like a balance, you know, a subtle balance, I guess, between those two.
Yep, yep.
What practice can we do when we feel out of alignment outside breath work?
So soften your shoulders and bring more awareness to your body because awareness is the medicine. That would be to keep it simple. The more aware you're, my mentor always tells me, if all you can do is get people to be more aware of what they're experiencing and exactly where they are, that will create a massive shift in their life.
Exactly. Like pause. Where are you? What are you feeling? You know, what are you like? When do you feel your butt on the chair, or your feet on the ground, and what do you hear? Just that kind of stuff on the in the present moment, actually, to be
Yes, bring your energy to the now. Yeah, because the
exactly.
now is the only thing that exists. Yeah.
Yeah. What is your mantra of or a sentence that you repeat to yourself a lot?
There's a couple, but I like to say to myself, you can't lose something that's aligned with you. I like to say that to myself whenever I'm going into like, oh, I wish I had done this or could have done that, or like feeling like you want to control the situation because you feel like your mind isn't getting what it thinks it wants. That's when I like to say to myself, you can't lose something that's aligned with you anyways, right? Like if one thing that you said was the difference between like someone being in your life and not being in your life, or you getting a job and not getting a job, then that means that thing wasn't aligned with you.
Yeah.
And then I also like to say to myself, like, it's okay to feel everything you're feeling. You can stay here for as long as you want. Like, I'll say that to the pain. I say that to myself all the time.
Yeah, me too. I love it. And it's funny because when you are doing this work, it's like you're increasing the confidence you have with the universe. I don't know how to say that because I'm not speaking about a god, but like everything happens for a reason. You know, like you have trust that everything happens for a reason, and that everything will be okay, and that everything is an opportunity for you to evolve.
Yeah, yeah. There's a level of trust and surrender for sure. Yeah,
Yeah, that's so reassuring for our system.
yeah.
What will you say to your younger self, like 20-year-old you?
Um, so I actually have a video of this where I said three things that I would tell my former self. Like pretty much the former self that had depression. I would tell her, welcome what you're feeling instead of trying to distract and suppress it and avoid it. I would say everything that you're doing and everything you're trying to heal, use it to love and nurture yourself rather than to make your pain go away, because you'll see completely different results when you do that. And I would tell her to honor her body when something is feeling heavy. It means it's not required, it's not the truth, it's not what your body's asking for, and that when something feels light, it's your body, your wisdom, your internal GPS guiding you to your heart's desires, to what your body's asking for. So keep following what's light and dropping what's heavy.
So I have a question about this because,
Yeah.
of course, when you are connected to your body, so you are really more aware of your intuition. But when you're not, you know, and for example, you think about something and at first it seems light and then it seems heavy. Sometimes people can be a bit confused because, like, there is
Yes.
the anxiety and the fear that is coming up too, you know?
Yes. Yeah. So you can't actually hear your wisdom when you're triggered, when you're in fear. So you would have to keep sitting with the fear first and even have some of it dissolve. Like my mentor will always say, if you're in 2% less fear, you have like 200% more access to your wisdom. So keep sitting with the fear before you tune in and be like, okay, does this feel heavy or light? And if you're still unsure, what I do is I just get fully on board with one choice and I'm just aware of how it felt when I made that choice and I pay attention to what gets created so that next time I'm more aligned with my wisdom because now I know, okay, when it felt like this, nothing really got created. Yeah, and then you'll actually start to see for yourself that when it's not a hell yes, it's a no. But I only know that because I've been tuning in for a while and paying attention to what gets created. Um, but yeah, it can definitely be hard to tell when you're in fear. So sit with the fear first
Yeah.
before you try to feel out heavy or light.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Anything else you want to share with us?
I would just say, like, to anyone that's actually like experiencing this, like depression or anxiety or any sort of illness or like struggle or lack in your life, that what you're doing is so courageous that you're actually willing to feel what you're feeling more fully, or even if this conversation is going to be the thing that has you be more willing to feel what you're feeling, because that takes so much courage. Like my mentor always says to me, the courageous moment no one's going to see. Like meeting these unthinkable densities that everyone else would rather escape from, and almost everyone else is just trying to distract themselves from in their life. Meeting these moments is so courageous and takes so much willingness. So I commend anyone who's already doing that or is willing to do that. And I just want you to know it's not an endless pit of despair as much as it might seem like it is when you're in it. And it might intensify when you start to bring your awareness to what you're feeling at first. But if you can just think of it as like a part of you that needs love, and it still needs love, even if it's there 2 weeks from now, okay, it's a part of me that's still hurting and still needs love. And if you could just give yourself the patience and all the love in the world, the energy will move. Your body already knows how to do this. You are powerful and you have everything that you need.
Yeah, I love it. Alisha, where can we find you?
Okay, so if you want to work with me privately, you can find me at drkimd.com/Alisha. So that's drkimd.com/ALISHA. If you have questions about working with me, you can email me at alicia@drkimd.com. You can follow me on Instagram, which is Alisha_Kapani. Kapani is Kapani. And then I also have a YouTube channel. I don't post on there that much, but that's Alisha Kapani. Yeah, and that's where you can find me.
Thank you, Alisha.
You're welcome. Thanks for having me. This was so fun.